guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch Richard Dawkins' best arguments against religion of all time. So, because we feel like the Hindu religion is a 5,000-year-old religion, and also it was much before like all the other religions came, and also like if you see any video, then it says that Hindu religion started it all. So, like, what are the arguments against that too? So let's watch this.
Preview.
If you don't mind, can we spend a few minutes talking about God? If that's okay. So I'm just wondering, I too get asked at many lectures my view on God. And my typical answer is that sure, there could be a God that's behind it all, and what we're doing as physicists, chemists, biologists, working out God's laws. And if that's how it is, I am thrilled to be part of that noble journey. I then add by saying, look, there's no evidence for that. I don't see any reason to believe that. And if what we're doing is just working out the laws of physics or chemistry or biology, and that's all that you need for a universe, I'm thrilled to be part of that journey. So the bottom line is, you know, from a sociological, from a historical viewpoint, religion's very, very interesting, but it's kind of profoundly uninteresting to answer the deep questions, because I feel like all I'm doing is replacing one mysterious set of words framed scientifically with another set of equally mysterious words that are framed non-scientifically.
Yes.
Now, I should say, after I say that, I always apologize, because I am all for hedging your bets. I'm not beyond that at all.
God-fearing person.
What do you think of that view?
Well, I think that the sort of Newtonian, I mean, Newton thought that he was working out God's laws, and he was demonstrating the glory of God's mind when he worked out the laws of mechanics and so on. I'm not so at ease with that as you seem to be, because it does seem to me that if there is a supernatural, superhuman intelligence that worked it all out, in a way that undermines the entire scientific enterprise, because we are, maybe an evolutionary biologist feels this more strongly, the whole enterprise of evolutionary biology is to explain how you get prodigious complexity and design from virtually nothing. I mean, we hand over to physicists when we can go beyond the virtually nothing to the absolutely nothing. But if you start from quite an advanced level bacteria and work up to mammals and humans, we have a working theory which we know is true, which explains how you can go from great simplicity to prodigious complexity.
Yeah.
And finally to the sort of complexity which is capable of designing things, of creating things, of working out how to do things.
Yeah.
Well, if you are suddenly going to insert a designing machine, a creator, an intelligence at the root of the universe, you've just undermined your entire enterprise, because your entire enterprise has been to explain how you get to something complicated enough to do design.
I think that religion
Actually, he's right.
teaches people to stop questioning. I'm sure you disagree with that, but the way I see it, it is such a privilege to be born at all. It's a very improbable event that either of us were born. We have the privilege of being in this universe for a few decades. And during that time, it is an enormous privilege to be able to understand something about the universe in which we live, why we're here, why we were ever born, where we come from. And I think that is such a wonderful thing to be able to do, that I am hostile, I can get angry about competing accounts which seem to me to not encourage that kind of questioning, but instead to say, this is how it is, it's all written in the Holy Book, it was written 2,000 years ago, and that's the end of it. I think that deprives people. I think that is such a belittling, a demeaning view of the universe, and I think it's tragic that children are brought up with that when they could be brought up in a more open-minded way. So one reason for the anger. The other reason we've touched upon, it is that I do think that faith, unsupported by evidence, is a lethal weapon. Doesn't have to be, of course it doesn't have to be, but it can be. It's a weapon because possibly unscrupulous people can get hold of often young men and use them as weapons, use them as human bombs. The only reason they can be deployed as human bombs is that they have been brought up from childhood onwards to believe implicitly, without question, that whatever the particular religion is, the details don't matter. The point is that they do believe that it is the will of God that they should detonate themselves and blow up a busload of people or blow up a skyscraper in New York. I don't think that any kind of reasoned argument would do that to people.
Actually,
and I felt
he's right.
the presence of the Lord. I have had that personal experience in a way that whatever you say with fancy Darwin talk, I have felt it the way I felt this chair.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, I'm not impressed by that because there are a similar number of people who are who brought up Hindus and say I felt the presence of Lord Krishna and etc. I mean, there are all sorts of illusions that the human brain is very capable of creating. And
that's an illusion. Those people
yeah.
Those people deluded? Those people that say they have had a religious experience?
I think they are. Yeah.
Those people who say that we have
deluded.
experienced a miracle, that God has interceded
even
in the
more
world.
So. Yes, most definitely.
That's a delusion.
Yes.
The notion that raising Lazarus from the dead.
Oh, of course. I mean that kind of story happens so easily. It happens to this day. There are all sorts of people reporting miracles all the time, and we don't. You don't believe them because it doesn't happen to chime in with the religion in which you were brought up.
Many people have criticized you, and when they read the God delusion, for example, you talk about the Jewish God, and you say genocidal, homophobic, racist. You use very provocative terms.
Well, that's the Abrahamic God, which is the God of the Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Yes.
Yeah, you are absolutely provocative on your descriptions.
Read Leviticus, read Deuteronomy. I don't need to do any more than just quote.
But is that a caricature to take the worst or the most fundamentalist, literalist readings of it, as opposed to the thousands of years of evolution of all of those religions?
Two things to say about that. One is that there are many people in this world who do take the Bible or the Quran literally, and literally do think that you should stone homosexuals to death or whatever it might be. That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is that even those people who don't say that, those people who have, as you say, evolved, have moved on. They have moved on for secular reasons. We've now abolished slavery. We now give equal rights to women.
Yes.
We now give votes to women. That's nothing to do with Scripture. That's nothing to do with the Bible. That's come about in spite of the Bible.
Yes.
And people have now gone back to the Bible and said, oh, well, we'll leave out that bit. We'll leave out that bit. It
Although
doesn't
some
chime
would
in
say
with modern
some would
views.
say the abolishment of slavery was very much inspired by the Bible, even though slavery might have been the same.
Well, you've got to be joking because what you're saying is that you can, if you look through the Bible, pick a verse. You can probably find a verse that you can read as abolishing slavery, and then you've got another verse that says you should keep slaves. So you're picking and choosing. That's all I'm saying. We don't get our morals from the Bible because we pick and choose on the basis of a modern morality which has evolved. Quite right to say it's evolved. It's evolved for secular reasons, and now with hindsight, having evolved our morality for secular reasons, we can go back to the Bible and we can, as it were, rub out the bits that don't fit with our modern secular morality.
Ignore the
Just
bad
don't
ones
read
and say
them
the right
anymore.
ones.
That's what people do.
We are incredibly social animals, as I said before, and when somebody does you a good turn, it's important to be grateful. It's important to pay back the favour and to express your gratitude.
The way you say it.
And that, I suggest, might generalise the psychological predisposition to feel grateful when something good happens to you. Might generalise from feeling grateful when a person does something good for you and when the weather does, say. When an accident happens, when there's an earthquake and your child doesn't die, you feel grateful. And you feel the need to be grateful to something or somebody. And you can't feel grateful to other people because they're not responsible for the weather. So you conjure up a fictitious person to feel grateful to. And that's a special case, really, of the idea that it's good survival practice to suspect agents in nature
Oh.
A lot of what happens in nature doesn't have an agent deliberately causing it. A lot of it is the weather, a lot of it is the wind, a lot of it is just plain accidents that happen. But when there are agents around, and where those agents might be lions or leopards or crocodiles who might be lurking in wait for you, or might be stalking you, then it's important for your survival to attribute agency to things. And that may generalize even to places where there's no agency. And I've often used the example of a rustling in the long grass, which could be the wind, is actually most likely to be the wind, but which could be a lion.
Oh, yes.
And although the odds are that it's the wind, your best bet is probably to assume
lion.
that it's a lion.
Yeah.
Because if you get the bet wrong, if you bet on it being the wind and your bet is wrong, that's rather tragic. So there may be a psychological predisposition to invent agents where there aren't any. And this same psychological predisposition generalizes itself to wind gods and thunder gods and lightning gods and river gods and sea gods and
It's
things
like
like that,
Hindu-
which then become merged later on in cultural
Hindu
evolution
religion.
into the gods, into the named gods like Thor and Zeus and Apollo and Yahweh.
His arguments are very correct, and also like he was talking about all the religions. Like he talked also about the Hindu religion and how like in India it's a lot. Like these assumptions are a lot. Like in India we have also seen or heard like on news channels people saying that the murti or the the statue sculpture or the statue is drinking milk or is drinking water or is crying. So and then people just hound towards it like, okay, this is happening, and then it becomes a news. Like for 5-10 years back it was a very big news. Nowadays it's not that big of a news, but still happens that people even like cry for it and do things for it. So then you hear these kinds of arguments and you feel like, okay, he might be right.
And for the people who are like just simply or blindly following the scriptures that has been written years ago, I think they should be also updated because they were written at that time. So they could be applied on that time, but even the way he said we are evolving. So it is not that we cannot connect that scripture to now time.
Actually, so what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and
Subscribe.
bye.